Well, hidey-ho, neighbors. Thank you for watching another edition of ARFCOM News. If you like our channel and want to help us succeed, consider casting this episode to your smart TV. I'm even more gorgeous at actual size, and Al Gore's rhythm section prefers content that plays on large screens. This week, we've got a more detailed breakdown of that Albuquerque shooting we covered last week, rumors about pistol braces, and some cops who invaded a little boy's privacy. But first, a word from our sponsor, TNVC. If you like seeing stuff more than not seeing stuff, take a look at our sponsor, TNVC.com, your source for quality night vision gear to make you the bump in the night. Last week, we reported on a shooting that happened at a protest in Albuquerque over a statue, and I told you more facts might come to light, and by the power of Grayskull, they sure did. The core facts that I relayed to you last week remain accurate, so far as I can tell, but we have a much clearer idea of what went down that day. Here's what I think I know. A group of protesters demonstrated at a conquistador statue demanding its removal. There were no uniformed police present, but John Burks, captain of the Bernalillo Company, New Mexico Civil Guard, said that 7 or 8 of his 20 men were present to maintain order. I don't know, but 20 sounds a little light even for a platoon, let alone a company. I shouldn't give them a hard time though, because they seem to be the only ones acting rationally and legally. Burke said that they wanted to act as a deterrent to vandalism in an attempt to maintain order, but that he wasn't willing to use violence over the statue if it came to it. A man named Stephen Baca, who is unknown to Burks or to the other militia, was seen in the crowd yanking a girl off a statue and throwing another girl to the ground. Baca is then attacked by a man swinging a skateboard and wearing a green backpack and pursued by several people. Baca walks a Baca for a ways while someone in the crowd yells to follow him and to get his license plate. After Baca turns away, the guy with the skateboard and the green backpack rushes forward and knocks Baca to the ground. As he gets up, 2 more people from the crowd, one of them, Scott Williams, rushes forward while another person accurately assessed, "Dude, you guys! Williams picked up the skateboard dropped by the other man and struck Baca with it as Baca rose. Internet rumors and Baca's attorney claimed that Williams had a knife, but no clear video evidence of that exists, and authorities claim that Williams did not have a knife. The still that's been circulated as proof is taken from this moment in the video, which is immediately after Williams delivered a blow with the skateboard and it's falling from his hands. The only way for Williams to have had a knife in his hand right there at this point is if he had been holding it and the skateboard at the same time, because you can see him swing the skateboard with 2 hands. It's irrelevant because a skateboard is already a lethal weapon and arguably more effective than a knife. In any case, Baca fired several rounds from his handgun, striking Scott Williams, who is expected to survive thanks in large part to the immediate assistance of several medics. One of the most impressive parts of this event is how competently the medics associated with both the protesters and the militia worked and communicated with each other to save this man's life. Baca was detained by the New Mexico Civil Guard members who were present, who themselves surrendered to police. None of the Civil Guard were charged with any offense. Baca was released on Monday and is currently charged with 2 counts of battery and an aggravated battery charge for attacking 3 women. The original aggravated battery charge for the shooting has been dropped because the APD appears to have treated the case like a monkey treats a football, if you know what I mean. The DA, Raul Torres, was ambiguously critical of the Albuquerque police investigation and implied the reason Baca isn't currently being charged with the shooting is that APD screwed up. Torres said, "I want to make it absolutely clear the reason he is not facing that charge right now is because the investigation is not complete." At least 50 people remained at the scene after the shooting, but Torres and witnesses say the APD did little to gather statements or secure photos and video evidence. So far as we can tell, there were no uniformed police present at the protest, but there were undercover cops and they were not questioned by the APD. The state police have taken over the investigation, and Torres assures he will file charges for the shooting if the evidence supports it. He implied that might be the case if it appears that Baca was the aggressor. Of course, the mayor is predictably shocked and appalled and blamed the Civil Guard because racism or something. And in typical autocratic fashion, the mayor passed a royal decree that henceforth all parks are schools and therefore it's illegal to carry guns in a park now, so there. Only about 1 million or so problems with this clever little legal maneuver. Let's start at the top. The United States Constitution. The supreme law of the land says you can't do that, but nobody seems to care about such old-timey stuff anymore. So let's move on to the fact that New Mexico has state preemption built right into their state constitution, making it illegal for cities to pass laws about guns. Not to worry, the mayor didn't pass a law. He just issued a decree. The problem is that this decree conflicts with the existing definition of schools in a bazillion ways. It's also absolute garbage squeezins and has no relationship with reality. If you'd like to tell Mayor Tim Keller what he's full of, you can call him at 505-768-3000. Let him know that you blame him directly for causing the incident, that you hold him responsible for the APD bungling the investigation, and that his continued ham-fisted approach is unconstitutional, un-American, and grossly negligent. As always, be concise, courteous, and considerate of the person taking the call. I have to say, out of all of this, the only grown-ups in the room have been the militia. I'm not gonna say the politicians kept the police away because they wanted the crowd to tear the statue down, but the statue is down now, and the politicians are muttering about decisions going forward and dialogue. Statues aren't gun rights, so I really don't give a wet fart about it either way, but I can understand why someone would blame the politicians for causing this situation. The militia, though, stepped in and did its job admirably. They attempted to maintain order and prevent vandalism, but when it became clear they could do so only by using force, they made the decision to pull back. You can criticize them for it, but it's a rational decision, especially considering the tools they had available. If they had a dozen men who had drilled together in crowd control techniques and were prepared to employ less lethal force to push the protesters away, and if they had an equal number of well-trained attorneys ready to defend their actions legally, then it might have been practical to defend the statue. After the shooting, the militia rendered aid to Williams and secured the scene. One man kicked Baca's gun away from him and then stood on it while he and other men protected Baca from the mob and preserved the scene as best they were able. So, have I changed my mind at all since last week? Not really. Baca is still an absolute turd nugget in my professional opinion, and in my uneducated lay opinion about legal matters, he could still have a hard time defending his use of force on account of how he beat up 3 girls to kick the whole thing off. It may also be worth noting that Baca might have been carrying illegally. Don't get it twisted, I believe in the right of all men to be armed, and I don't believe we should have to grovel before the state to find out if it pleases the crown either. So I wouldn't fault Baca or any other free man for disregarding an immoral law. But I do believe it's a bad idea to carry illegally, especially in a shell-issue state like New Mexico. And if he was indeed carrying illegally, that wouldn't help his case either. He should be very grateful that Williams didn't die. Of course, the thing a few people still can't grok is that Baca's actions and Williams' actions can both be illegal at the same time. Of course it was illegal for Williams and the other man to attack Baca with a skateboard. Williams fucked around and found out. But because the attack, and really the whole incident, was the result of Baca's attacks on the 3 females, Baca is likely to lose his claim of legitimate self-defense. Defense is literally the opposite of offense, after all. Bottom line for me is that whether or not Baca gets away with it, he acted in very poor judgment. He seems to have intentionally targeted females, and while their gender shouldn't make any legal difference, their smaller stature does play a role, and picking on girls makes him seem like just a real swell guy, you know? We still should not be defending his actions, and we should be applauding the New Mexico Civil Guard for keeping peace when the cops wouldn't. Just as I was recording last week's episode, a rumor broke that the ATF is reviewing pistol braces again. I even recorded a brief section stating just that. This just in, apparently there's a rumor that the ATF is going to be reviewing pistol braces again. I don't have any time to verify whether that's true or not. By the time this video drops, we'll know a lot more about it, which we can talk about down in the doobly-doo. But for now, just a rumor. But I decided to leave it out because I really didn't know anything at the time. But now, several days later, I still don't know anything. In all seriousness, it still remains a rumor, really. Florida Congress critter Matt Gaetz said in his podcast that ATF is currently considering restricting one arm brace model. Getz sent an open letter to the ATF, which was signed by 6 of his colleagues. So what's the truth here? Is the Combine going to kick in our doors and seize the braces like they did the bump stocks? Will F-Troops simply proclaim that 500,000 Americans are suddenly felons for owning a thing? Now, bear in mind, this is all highly speculative, but if Getz isn't full of it and is just looking to get his name out there for re-election, the wording indicates the ATF may be considering a specific model of brace might not be legal to attach to a pistol. So whatever happens, it doesn't sound like it will impact all braces, like when they changed their minds on whether you could shoulder a brace, or that time when they changed their minds on whether you could shoulder a pistol brace, or that other time when they changed their minds on whether you could shoulder a pistol brace. If they're considering a rule, it will probably focus on one specific model. For example, some folks have pointed to the blade style of braces as not exactly stabilizing much. And no, don't go running off saying Andrew told you the ATF was going to ban all the blade style braces. Again, this is pure speculation, and they don't get to make law anyhow. When the BATFE issues an opinion letter, they are simply stating what their interpretation of U.S. code is. That is, they are officially saying they would be willing to arrest and charge someone for an offense in certain circumstances. But the case would still be argued in court, and they might win or might lose. It's just that few people are willing to be the test case, so most people structure their public actions around what ATF proclaims to be legal, in their opinion. My private suspicion is that Getz caught wind of some memo where some bureaucrat floated the idea of whether a certain brace ought to be considered legal. My hunch is that the ATF, as an organization, doesn't really have that on their radar right now. Still, it's entirely plausible the ATF will issue an opinion letter stating that brand X braces aren't bracy enough and therefore installing them on a pistol constitutes manufacturing a short-barreled rifle. But for the love of allspark, please don't write any more letters on this subject. Did you hear about the Baltimore cops who searched a student home because somebody saw a BB gun behind him in a webcam class meeting? That's like just the clickbaity title though, right? I mean, maybe that's what got their attention in the first place, but the kid probably said something stupid on Facebook, right? No? Nothing like that? Yeah? Okay, yeah, the school asked police to investigate because they saw a BB gun inside someone's home. Then the cops just did. Reading about this one, I was amused to find that the mother has extensive knowledge about firearms due to a 4-year stint in the Navy. Don't get me wrong, I'm aware that a small percentage of Navy personnel do receive small arms training, so it isn't that squids can't shoot. Okay, well, maybe a little, but it's also always funny when legacy journalists cite military or police service as proof of firearm competence. Bro, an E7 in 3rd group once tried to tell me that the saw fires from a closed bolt, and I can't count how many Joes have told me that the reason 5.56 is so deadly is because it tumbles on the way to the target. Anybody who knows stuff about guns and has served has probably run into a few of those guys, so you know what I'm talking about. But it sounds like Courtney Lancaster is doing an outstanding job raising a son who is active, intelligent, and interested in the outdoors as he pursues the rank of an Eagle Scout. And good for her for standing up for him and speaking out about what the school did. Would have been cooler if she told the cops to come back with a warrant, but I can understand why she might want to avoid conflict and why mommy might not want to boogaloo right there on the porch in front of her son. No word on whether the entire faculty will be investigated for bringing weapons to school, since every one of them is certain to have knives and other prohibited items in their home. If the student's home becomes the school in these video meetings, does that mean that some of the faculty are also guilty for bringing alcohol on campus? Taurus has introduced their G3C, which is a 12-round subcompact 9mm with a $300 MSRP. As the nomenclature indicates, it is based on the original G3, but smaller. It's also a little larger and heavier than a Springfield Hellcat, and it can hold one less round. But it's also a lot less expensive. Put another way, it's the same capacity as a P365, but slightly larger than that gun as well. Come to think of it, the G3C is slightly larger than most of the recent crop of subcompact carry 9s. I know Taurus may not be synonymous with perfection or no compromise in your book, but if you know of any other comparably sized pistol in this price range, Leave a comment below. If someone you care about said they have received threats from an ex and want to begin carrying a handgun right away, but they still can't afford to spend more than $350 on the gun, ammo, and holster, which guns would you recommend? Would the G3C make your list? Comment below. Holosun has released the 509T, which looks like it's intended to be the Chinesium answer to the Aimpoint Acro. The 509T has a lot of the same features we've seen on other Holosun models like the Shake Awake and the Circle Dot or Dot Only reticle. The center dot is 2 MOA, the circle is 32 MOA, and it has 2 night vision brightness settings. Holosun claims a 50,000 hour battery life, which is about 5 years. MSRP is about $500. If you think it needs to spend a week at the bottom of my rain barrel, leave a comment below. Speer has introduced a line of ammo they're imaginatively calling a carry gun that makes use of their G2 bullet design. You may remember the G2 had some problems at launch because it failed to expand in many independent tests. Speer seems to have cleared up those issues, so hopefully we won't see the same failures as that we did before, especially considering that this is marketed for shorter barrels. Hopefully, I can include some in my next batch of gel testing. Well folks, that's rounds complete on Gun 2, end of mission. If you enjoy watching these videos half as much as we enjoy making them, then smash that like button and show our robot overlords that pew-pews are more entertaining than lukewarm late-night hosts. And if you like seeing stuff more than not seeing stuff, check out our sponsor, TNVC.com. You might need them when we start the next quest line in 2020. I heard a credible rumor about Florida man feeding methamphetamine to alligators. You don't want to be caught slipping with a meth gator in the dark. To say thank you for sticking with us all the way to the end of this video, the first person to post "Stay strapped" or "Get clapped" in the YouTube comments gets a free t-shirt. I love you.